Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Crimes Extended. Join me while we delve into the case of David Parker Ray and his homemade torture trailer. David Parker Ray was born in Belen, New Mexico on November 6, 1939, to his parents Cecil and Nettie Ray. His father Cecil was often violent towards Nettie, and they divorced, with Cecil getting full custody of the two kids, David and his little sister Peggy. The kids were then left with Cecil's parents, where they were mostly raised. Ray regularly saw his father, but nothing good came from those visits. Cecil was a drunk, abusive father who beat Ray often. It is speculated that Ray's obsession with torturing women came from his father, who would gift Ray with magazines that depicted sadomasochistic pornography. When Ray was in school, he was considered shy around girls and was often bullied by his peers because of it. Due to this bullying, Ray turned to drinking and abusing alcohol at a young age. After high school, Ray enlisted and served in the U.S. Army as a mechanic, receiving an honorable discharge at the end of his enlistment. He went on to marry a total of 4 times, with each one ending in divorce. After his 4th marriage, he met Cindy Hendy, who worked at the Elephant Butte State Park. They hit it off almost instantly and had a good relationship. They moved in together, and shortly after, Hendy admitted that she also shared the same sadistic fantasies towards women. This brings us to March 22, 1999. There were a series of calls made to the Elephant Butte Police Department claiming a naked woman with an iron collar was running down the street attempting to flag down cars for help. The woman's name was Cynthia Vigil, and she was running away from the home of David Parker Ray. Vigil was a prostitute at the time and was approached by Ray in a parking lot. He presented himself as an undercover police officer and proceeded to place Vigil in handcuffs. She was then taken to the house that Ray and his girlfriend shared. Vigil was then tasered, drugged, blindfolded, and chained to a bed. Vigil was forced to listen to a pre-recorded tape, which was deemed the instruction tape, which gave Vigil information about what was to come. The tape stated, "Okay, we both know what you've been brought here for. I'm going to use you for a sex slave, and it's going to be painful as hell. That's the way I want it to be." After this tape was played, she was subjected to 3 days of constant abuse, only escaping when Hendy made a mistake and left the key to her chains on a nightstand close by. As she was struggling to unlock her chains, Hendy attempted to stop her. A scuffle ensued, and Vigil was able to break free by stabbing Hendy in the neck with an ice pick. Vigil ran out of the house naked with an iron collar around her neck. She was able to run to a nearby trailer to get help. When the police finally arrived, Vigil was able to direct them to the couple's home, where they were shocked at what they had discovered. Behind the home was a soundproof trailer, which Ray called the Toybox, and that trailer was full of torture devices, some of which Ray made himself. The walls were covered in detailed diagrams showing different methods and techniques to inflict pain, along with the devices, which included whips, chains, pulleys, straps, clamps, leg spreader bars, surgical blades, electrical shock machines, and saws. Along with these was a wooden contraption that was used to bend over and immobilize his victims. There was also a gynecological chair in the center with a mirror directly above, so the victim could see everything that was being done to them. Also in the trailer were videotapes of past victims and a journal, which held detailed reports for each victim, including dates, times, and method of torture. The journal also detailed the murder of at least 50 women. It was suspected that Ray either killed his victims or drugged them and let them go in the hopes that they would forget what happened to them. When the news about the case broke out, the police were determined to find the other victims in the videos. The first to be found was Angelica Montana, who was an acquaintance of Ray's and was invited over to the house by Hendy, where she was drugged, raped, and tortured over a series of days. She was held captive for 4 days. Believing that she was going to be killed, Montana began pleading that she had young children at home. This plea made Hendy emotional, and she convinced Ray to let her go. She was then given drugs that would induce amnesia and memory loss, and left by the side of the highway out in the desert. She managed to make it home, where she reported the crime to the police, who thought the report was so outrageous that they ended up not believing her story. The second victim was found using the homemade tapes that Ray recorded himself. The victim's name was Kelly Garrett, and she met Jessie Ray, who was David Parker Ray's daughter, on a night out after an argument with her husband. Garrett went to a bar and spent the night playing pool and drinking. She was offered a ride home by Jessie, but instead was taken to Ray's house, where she was threatened, tied up, and drugged. After being tortured for 2 days, her throat was slit and she was dumped on the side of the road. She survived her encounter and had her wounds treated. Garrett went to the police, and just like Montana, the police did not believe her story and thought that she was just mentally deranged. She ended up filing a police report, but that report was misplaced. Her husband also did not believe the story. He believed that she left and was cheating on him during her time away from home, to which he filed for divorce. No one else came forward, and the police were unable to find other victims from the videos. There was enough evidence by now to charge Ray and Hendy with more than 25 counts of kidnapping and rape. Hendy testified against Ray, stating that he had killed at least 14 of the girls and also had an accomplice named Roy Yancey, who was forced to kill a woman and dispose of her body. The police tracked down Yancey, and under questioning, he admitted to strangling and burying Marie Parker because Ray forced him to. Both Hendy and Yancey testified that Ray killed multiple women and they knew where the bodies were buried. Both showed the police where possible bodies were buried, but the police were unable to find any remains. It is believed that Ray moved the bodies shortly after they were buried. Once the group was in jail, both Yancey and Hendy refused to cooperate further. This was due mostly because of Ray's influence. Yancey received threats while Hendy received love letters. As far as sentencing goes, Cindy Hendy was charged for her role in abducting and sentenced to 36 years in prison, where she served 19 of them and was released in 2019. Yancey was charged for his role and sentenced to 2 15-year prison sentences. Jessie Ray was about to stand trial when Ray offered to plead guilty for all remaining charges if she were to be released. He was then sentenced in 2001 to 223 years in prison. 1 year into his sentence, he died of a heart attack. To this day, none of the other victims have come forward and no bodies have been found. The FBI released hundreds of photos of items that Ray had kept as mementos to the hopes that family members might recognize them. The link to these images will be in the description. This is 5 Minute Crimes Extended, and I hope to see you in the next video.